Hi, my name is Amy and I am Make Art, Ride Bikes. This video is basic strength for runners and cyclists. These movements, this combination of movement can be done really every day or 2 or 3 times a week. Also, if you find particular movements in this flow to be interesting or challenging, you might just want to do those all the time, very regularly. So try this out, follow along with me, and then you can go from there. You might just memorize some of the moves and do them accordingly for your body. Tiny bit of education before we do physically move around. Lower leg awareness is a key thing that I'm really into, and I feel that it's important to have a good sense of the way that your feet, your ankles, your lower legs move, because that goes up through your whole body. So if you have no idea or no sense of your feet, don't be embarrassed, but fix it now. So let's step 1 foot forward. For me, it's my right foot. And just to heat up your tibialis anterior, that's the only muscle name I'm going to give you, just to feel that baby, which is from your knee to your ankle. It crosses your ankle and kind of just holds onto the whole shin bone. It doesn't cross your knee, but it still affects your knee. But with your 1 foot forward, so let's say it's your right foot, just dig your heel into the floor, soften your knee towards me, almost moving from below your kneecap, so a little bop, I call it a bop-like knee bend. And then standing on your heel, just pull your toes back towards your shin. So you're only standing on your heel, the ball of your foot is now missing from the floor. Try to fatigue, squeeze, shrink, feel muscled up, wrinkled up in the front of your shin. And then just tap your foot back down. Do it again. Pull foot back, and then tap it back down. Do it again. So hopefully feeling some fatigue or some awakening or some kind of a jump in the front part of the leg. That's what I'm looking for here. I'll get you to keep working on the same leg for awareness, but bend both of your knees just for logistics. Place if you're working on your right leg, place your right handprint directly on your right kneecap, your patella. And then just drop your whole palm directly below that. So for me, if you can see what I'm doing here, my index finger kind of rubs along the sharp ridge of the tibia, the lower leg bone. So do that at home, but then keep your palm print to the outside of your leg. Once you've found that sharp ridge of the bone, keep your hand to the outside of it, so you're on muscle, and then go back to landing your foot, pulling your toes back towards your shins. That would just be standing on the heel, and keep doing that. Do that a few times, like you're tapping your foot impatiently, and feel the way that the wires of that muscle do floss around beneath your hand, or hopefully feel that. That's what you want to heighten your body awareness to, because if you can strengthen this muscle, or at least be aware of this muscle, every time you actively pull your toes back towards your shin, you get this beautiful lengthening of your Achilles. So although your heel doesn't go lower than the floor, there's this education that there's a taut lengthiness to that back side of the leg. So you can reduce your tension in your lower legs, your calf shortness, your Achilles shortness, through strengthening this muscle. So that is key. That is a message that is very lost on society. Usually we do, our forward folds or our downward dogs to lengthen the crap out of the backs of the legs, but just strengthen the front of the legs, and then the back of them will become longer. The same is true in other parts of the body. If you strengthen your quad, your hamstring will loosen up. If you strengthen your hamstring, your quad will loosen up. So be less separate about strength and length, and just kind of treat them as a unified force. Okay, so with that, bring your hands to your hips. Look at your feet and just see that they are at your hip width. And then moving from those tibialis anterior muscles, muscle that you just had your palm print on, which runs from below the knee to the ankle, bend your knees. So just bop both of your knees towards me. Have a look down, so you'll do a little chin tuck, and you should be able to see your big toes. Very classic cue for for any kind of a squat or lunge, your knees are not knocked in. They're more so aimed at second or third toe. And then just strengthen everything as you generally develop the body up towards the ceiling. Now bop, ends of the shin bones forward, so that part just below the kneecap is what moves towards me. And then full footprints, squeeze legs straight. Your hips are square this whole time. If you've got hands on your hips like me, your thumbs can kind of encourage your butt to drop down, which lengthens out your low back. So bop. And then make strong footprints, strong legs. Bop. Strong footprints, strong legs. Keep going. Think really hard about that front of low leg muscle working to help you find this shape. Maybe feeling the weightedness of your heels and how that might contribute to longer Achilles, healthier backsides of low legs. And then we'll make things a little bit harder. The next time that you stand up from that bop, you'll stay. And then you'll stand on your toes or on the balls of your feet is truly what you're standing on, the knuckles of the feet. So hike up tall. If you fall down while I'm speaking you through this, just come right back up. But your legs have remained at your hip width. You found awareness earlier in the fronts of the lower legs. Now feel, just through mind, just through holding this situation, just feel that your right and your left balls of feet are evenly weighted, so they're both working. Be hyper aware of that. If you can, feel with mind's eye, with your body awareness, that you're bulked up evenly in both calf muscles. So both of those bowling balls of the lower legs are bubbled up towards the back mouth of the knee. All right, so you're still on your toes with me. Now bop towards me. So your shin bones move towards me, your butt feels heavy. Maybe you kind of feel a little bit like you're sitting on your bike. So that movement came from our shins. And now like you're dropping a floor in an elevator, print your heels down towards the floor. So you're not rocking forward, you're not rocking backwards. You're literally, to the term, to the word, replacing your heels. And when I land here, my knees are still a little bit bent. That's our flow. Stand up super tall onto the balls of the feet, aka toes. Stand on your toes, stand on the balls of your feet. So your heels are totally unplugged right now. You feel even weight from foot to foot. You feel bulky and involved, engaged from calf to calf. Bop your knees. And then take that elevator ride down. Heels seal towards the floor, earning that length in the Achilles and the backs of the legs. Lift up. Bop from the shin level. Elevator heels down. Lift. Bop. Lower. Lift. Bop. Lower. Lift. Bop. Lower. Do it one more time, even if it's boring. Lift. Bop. Lower. Now you are hyper aware of the balls of the feet because that's what you were just standing on. So I'll get you to just step the ball of the right foot forward. So it'll look like this from the profile. Just step and then land the ball of the foot underneath your hip. Return the heel. Right ball of foot steps under the hip. Land the heel. Step forward, step back in, land heel. Step forward, step back in, land heel. Step forward, step back in, land heel. Keep going. Your hips are square. The ball of the foot is feeling evenly spread, so you're working on, again, becoming hyper aware in that surface. In the lower leg. In the heel. It would be a good thing, not a bad thing, if that left hip was getting tired. And then let's switch. Let the ball of the left foot just step so that the hips are square, but the legs are staggered. Left foot forward. And then land the ball of the left foot under the hip, then the heel. Left ball steps forward. Left ball steps back, heel lands. Step, step back, heel. Step forward, step back, heel. Step forward, step back, heel, and then keep going. 2, 2, 2. All right. Now you're ready to advance. Last one. And then keep the feet side by side, or keep both feet down for a moment. Come back to center, so to speak. As previously done, step the right ball of foot forward. The left knee is in a bit of a bump, so the left shin is a little bit pushed forward, the knee is bent. And then you can watch first, do second. You're practicing a drag for your hamstring now. Pull on the floor with your bare foot, or maybe sock foot would work. Pull and flick. At this end point, so now you're in a hamstring curl, your hips are still square, feel the ball of the foot pressing against the air. So the right toes are still spread, and this foot shape is called a demi-point. Let's just repeat that. Keep the waist perfectly long, keep the hips side by side, let the ball of the right foot step forward, and then scuff. Scuff or drag, whatever word works for you. Print, drag. Print, scuff. Go, go. Keep finding it. Feel in mind's eye that you are wrinkling up, squeezing, finding strength in the hamstring of the leg that you're bending. If you can't find it with the mind, you can place your hand, your same side hand, your right hand, right below your butt cheek, and pull so much that you do feel the muscle firming up right there. So that would just be the top of your hamstring. Okay. All right, and finish up on that side. Same thing, second side. We'll be redoing this with the wall, and you may feel more hamstring then. So left ball of foot steps forward, scuff, step, scuff. Keep finding it on the left side. And again, you can keep the hands on the hips the whole time. Or you might use the same side hand, the left hand, to monitor. So that handprint would be just below your left butt cheek, trying to reassure you that you're squeezing your hamstring. Noticing some action right there. And I'm tipping over a bit. That's good. Okay. And then finish up with the feet side by side. Let's do, again, the advanced version of this. So now we'll do more hip flexion, which will give us more lower back length. So this is harder. Let's still step the ball of the right foot forward. Hands are definitely on the hips this time. The supporting leg is your left one, and that's in a little bit of a bop. Your thumbs might knock the backs of the hips down a bit, so your thumbs might push your butt dimples down to the floor so you're long in your back as the right leg lifts up. All right, my left butt is extra squeezed in this case. There's some awareness in my right foot, so it's not totally lazy. But now, can you make your way through a step and scrape, or step and scuff? So your foot hits the floor, and then you, from here, let it feel pretty mechanical. Your butt drops down, your right knee lifts up. Then ball of foot prints, scuff. Your butt drops down as your thigh lifts up. Ball of foot, scuff. Butt goes down, thigh lifts. Ball of foot, scuff. Keep going. Add some tempo. Squeeze your butt. Maybe feel the circle, which one might want to feel when both running and cycling. So let's try to take some of the chops out of it and feel continuous. Let's check that out on the other side so the right foot can land. It's fine if the left hip is feeling fatigued. That's just telling you something about your stabilizer muscles. They might not be as stable as you thought they were. So bop the knees, float the left thigh. Ball of foot, scuff. When the thigh floats, your butt drops. Ball of foot, scuff. Keep going. Again, moving eventually from a mechanical movement to a circle. And there you have it. Bring the feet in side by side. All right. There's more where that came from, but let's go to the wall next. So find a clear wall in your house, your office, your studio, wherever you are. So you a wall that you will put your feet on. Stand facing a wall and just figure out a good leg length distance between you and the wall. So you would just figure that. There's mine. So this is going to be the movement hips parallel, or hips in this L shape, legs in this L shape. So you don't want to be too far away from the wall or too close to it. But you'll hover the right foot in beside the left one. Let's start with the right leg. So you can hover that right foot, squeeze the quad to lift your right leg up. Keep the hips very, very, very square. Place the ball of that right foot on the wall, which you had learned on the floor, and then land the heel. So it's good either way. If this feels tired or stretchy for the hamstring, that would be a fine thing. So your right quad is squeezed and strong. Your right hip is really down towards the floor, so your hips should be very, very, very square facing the wall. Undo the right heel, and then if you can think it through, think hamstring strength, think back of leg as the legs move in side by side. Sorry for my crop job, you can't see me here, but my right foot is just floating. Take the right foot back up. Hit the ball of the foot against the wall. So that's up to your control. Your hands are on your hips, so you're monitoring your hips. Land your heel, or press your heel into the wall. Undo the heel, and then just have a moment of this right hamstring pulling backwards so that you're standing. The right foot not landing in my case. It's fine if it did land, but bonus if you're hovering it. Your low back, your butt get heavy, almost lengthy as your right leg lifts. Same leg, ball of foot, heel of foot. Whew. Undo the heel, hover strong right leg beside you. Let's do 3 more, same leg. So almost think of that kneecap squeezing the quad up to the hip as your leg floats. Demand the ball of the foot onto the wall. Your hips stay secure and square as the heel hits. Unplug heel, muscle the feet in side by side. Last 2, same leg. Float up, so your low back is monitored and long. Ball of foot to the wall. Heel to the wall. Heel off of the wall. Hips side by side, legs side by side. Last one. Float. Ball of foot. Heel of foot. With hands still on hips, with foot still on wall, just pull your hips straight down. Squeeze the legs back together. And then without further ado, just float the left leg. It moves up to that L-type shape, so you should feel quite close to the wall, but the ball of your foot still has to reach for the wall. Land the heel, and then the hands can really, pull the hips down. Squeeze the feet in side by side. This left leg ideally does not land at all. Float it back up. Ball of foot connects to the wall. Heel connects to the wall. Lift heel. Hover left foot beside the right one. Float. Ball of footprint. Heel print extra snug of the hips down. Lift heel. Legs side by side. Last 2. Let's float. Ball of foot. Heel of foot, extra drag of the hips down using the hands. Unplug heel. Feet side by side. Last one. Float. Secure the ball of the foot. Secure the heel of that left foot, and then really suction or drop the hips down. The left one is going to want to hike, so teach it down manually with the hands. And then squeeze the feet back together. And then land, and then back to a slightly better camera crop job. Let's move away from the wall for a few more movements. Meet me there. Briefly, more detailed hip strength comes from the glute medius, side legs, side hips I should say. Then filling in more of the hip strength little movement, one of my favorite movements for glute med, your side butt. From the standing shape that you are in, with big toes touching, brush one leg directly out to the side. So minimize towering over on the other leg. Turn the big toe in and maybe lift the heel so the leg got higher through this imaginary cord. You could stay toed in and just muscle that right leg back in beneath you, only to swiftly pop the left leg out, lifting it high enough to feel something go on in the outside of the hip. Big toe in, hopefully exaggerating that. Rock the heel higher to the ceiling and then muscle back together. Keep your waist long, maybe even measuring it with the fingers. Pop leg out. Big toe in to refine. Squeeze back together. Lifted waist. You can lift your whole rib cage up actually. Pop out. Toe in, heel up. Squeeze back together. Out to the side. Toe in, heel up. Squeeze. Out to the side. Think tightrope. Heel up. Squeeze. Side. Heel lift. Squeeze. Keep going. One more each side. Hands at hips, and good strong stillness of the feet nice and close together. All right, back on your feet on the floor. So you've backed away from the wall, and hands are on your hips are square. I'm hoping that the work at the wall will be a bit of a teacher for this next add-on. Let's skip the whole ball of foot steppy forward thing and just float the right thigh, but see how my hips went down in that case. So hips go down as thigh bone goes up. And then in yoga, this would just be called your warrior 3. The leg stays locked in place, but you start to, the pelvis moves. So the thigh continues to look like this nice 90 degrees, but your torso hinges, your pelvis goes up and over your legs. You can watch and do, or watch first, do second. So now you're more inverted. Your hips are side by side like the lesson of the wall. And if you really think about it, once we push this, the right leg is the floating leg. Once we push this right leg straight, this is exactly what you did on the wall, but now the floor is the wall. Then let's just suck the feet back together. And this is one where we will repeat on the same side. So hover the right foot. Your skull came back up. You're in what's called mountain pose. Feel your hips descend as this right thigh ascends. So just starting in that 90-degree situation. Your pelvis spills over. The right leg stays in this thick tabletop or 90-degree shape. You're spilling. Your skull is going forward. And then you might think of just skull and foot opposing one another as the right leg moves into a straight shape, and you are demanding that your hips are square to the floor. You're remembering what you did on the wall. Just think feet together, skull back to help you stand. Let's do, this is hard. Let's do 2 on this leg. Maybe that right leg didn't touch down. Let's float her up. Hinge forward. The eyes, the spikes of both of the hips are absolutely facing the floor. Push the right foot back. So this is just a moving warrior 3. Your low back would be puffed up to the ceiling. Spine more so in the back wall of your body. Now squeeze the feet in side by side for one more. Your skull just went back. You're upright now. Float right leg. Spill the hips. So the hips are a bowl pouring over the legs. The right foot is yanked back towards the wall behind you. You are correctively pulling your right hip down towards the floor. And then stand up. And then don't take a break. Stand on your right foot. Float the left leg. As this left thigh finds its way into the air, both hips descend. Let's hinge. So you are standing on your right leg, and you are, in your imagination, your right leg would be the leg on the wall if you were standing upright. Your floating leg is your back one, so stick that guy backwards. and feel the hips are side by side. So it takes an extra effort of the left hip going down for the most part. Your cue is to suction the feet together, skull back. Let's do 4, float left leg to that tabletop. Legs somewhat unmoving, but the pelvis hinges over the legs. Your warrior 3 becomes filled out when you push that left foot back. Skull moves away from foot. Suction the feet side by side. 3 more left leg floats. Floats. When I say floats, I mean tabletop. Hinge. Kick back. Developing both legs. It's work for both legs. Suction the feet together. 2 more. A bent left leg. Hips hinge over. A developed left leg. The foot sticks out. The ears push forward. And then last one, squeeze feet together, feeling the hips get down low to the floor. Left thigh floats. With bent leg, you move through that warrior 3. And then this is your last one. Chest and hips facing the floor as you develop that left leg long, strong, straight. Squeeze the feet in side by side. If ankles, hips, knees, all the parts are feeling shaky, that would be a good thing. So let's not take a break and keep putting pieces together. Float right leg. And then this is fancier. Everything's been quite linear. Now we're going to externally rotate. So if you've hacky sacked in the 90s, you're hacky sacking now. So your right leg is floating, hacky sack it, bop the left knee. So you're finding a figure 4. The left knee bops, and then it bops enough so that you can create that number 4. So your right outer ankle is on your left knee, and then more directly in a squat formation, reach your fingers towards me, sit your hips back and away from me. To make a flow out of this, we'll do repeats on same side. Pull palms backwards, stand up, and then just undo the right leg. So it'll look like that tabletop, aka I keep calling it float. So you're in float, hacky sack, figure 4, squat. Let your hands move back in space as you pipe up to standing. Float the leg, hacky sack, figure 4, and a figure 4 plus squat. You're trying to keep those hips square. Pull hands back, undo the figure 4. Hacky sack, reach forward, figure 4, and then you've got the idea. Same leg, keep going. Let's hold the next one and go as low as you can. So keep the left heel grounded. Think of that left tib anterior, that left lower leg muscle, really pushing forwards beyond the ankle is fine. We're open to that. We're good with that. Our butts are low. And then you stand up. And you undo. I'll just instruct the left side once. Float, tabletop-ish. Your first hacky sack on this side, so it's a swoop from the inner lower leg, and then the standing supporting leg is moving into the floating left foot. Hands do that counter-reaching away from your butt. You can muscle your hands back as you float the left thigh up. Keep finding it on this side. Great. Hold the next one. And then as per the cues of the other side, just be sure that the foot you're standing on is totally planted. Get low and low and low and low. Think from the right lower leg, moving that forward in space. The left foot can be quite active. Make your way up. Okay. And then we complicate getting down onto the floor. So everybody stays with me for the first bit. There's a bit of a fancy movement coming up that you might take or leave. Hands on the hips. And let's touch the big toes together. I like this one to be done more narrow. As per way back in the beginning of the video, nice. Stand up onto your toes. So opening the fronts of the ankles, both calves are very strong. Then it starts with a bop. Bop both knees, and then keep bopping. Keep moving your shins together and forward, and go and go and go. If it doesn't look like mine right away, don't worry about it, but get low. Your heels are off the floor. I'll do this from profile view. Try to keep those heels lifted. Cue from the top of your head. Think of ballet, skull to ceiling. Squeeze to stand, so tight, tight, tight. Let's keep the heels lifted. So work in that calf raise. Bop first. So your butt gets heavy, your shin bones just bopped forward, and then tighten your legs as you sit. Sitting, sitting, sitting. Squeeze to stand. And then you've got the idea. Keep going. I would be okay with a little heel drop at the top here if you needed it, but if you can maintain standing on balls of feet, that's the preference. Okay, the next time that you are down, stay. And then here is the take it or leave it part. If you've got old knee stuff, or if you're just feeling incredibly inflexible in the knees and in the ankles, what you just did was awesome and it was plenty. So you can just go to kneeling, you can just go to seated or kneeling, or if you want more, let's stay on the balls of the feet and control both of the knees down at the same time. Trying to not be too clunky or too loud, and then get out of that. So pull both of the knees off of the floor. You can move your arms in any way that you want to help with this. And then I'm just going to keep doing that. Hopefully you'll play with that at home. That might happen. All right. And then meet me grounded. So let's all come into kneeling. Untuck the feet. And then come onto your back with your hips and your knees bent. We'll go back to that. We'll repeat the figure 4 stuff. So if you're dwelling and getting the whole picture of this flow, you can hold your hamstrings at this point so your feet are grounded. Get a little bit of a cat spine. Bit of a hang quality to this one. And then slowly lower yourself down. Skull hits the floor. Do what you've got to do to feel comfortable in the shoulder blades and in the low back. And then let's do a direct repeat of the standing stuff in terms of the figure 4. So your legs are in a loose bend. If you can see mine, my feet aren't directly underneath the knees, they're slightly ahead. I float the right leg. I hacky sack, and then I ground. So the edge of my right ankle is on my left knee, and I'm spinning the right knee out. So it's really a figure 4. I undo, so my leg is airborne, and then I do a good hacky sack. I really glue the outer ankle, and in this moment of figure 4, I squeeze my right outer hip to get my right knee to move. So the knee moving out comes from your butt strength, your spread right toes. Keep going, same side. I'll flip the perspective for you. But it's that right leg moving off and on. Arms strong on floor. I'll add 2 more variations to this. Keep the figure 4 the next time that you are there, and you'll want to look at me to make sense of this one, but your hands, your butt stay strong. The outer ankle will stay on the left knee that's currently holding it. Now just wag the knee, the right knee, towards midline. So in my body, I get a little bit of something on the outside of my right hip. My right foot is still attached to the left leg, still somewhat stuck. But then I go back into a strong figure 4. So you're just opening and closing the gate of this right leg from this perspective. Keep going. Your left foot is stuck to the floor, unmoving. Da, da, da. And then stay in the next strong turnout. Push your low back into the floor. So find a way to be very long in the low back. And now float the left foot. So your hips stay square. So this is what a traditional figure 4 looks like, but we don't use our hands. We use our legs. So the hands stay glued down with a consistent lower back that doesn't really change or move. You return the left foot, so that takes some skill. Float. And then this is your third variation of your figure 4. Keep finding it. You'll hold it. So you'll hold with the left foot floating. You can stay where you are, or you could use your hands to grab onto the left hamstring, which would just lace through the window of the legs. I'm just going to stay without hands, hands free. And then slowly back down, returning the right foot. Lift and land your tail, your low back. Roll your shoulders down. Float your left leg. And then start your hacky sack motion. Your foot, your inner lower leg, your calf swing in so you can land the sharp part of your ankle outside of the right knee now. So it's a floating left leg, a swing into that hacky sack, and then a land. Keep finding that rep. And then keep it grounded. You can really turn that left knee out, spread the left toes. And then we'll calmly close the door of the pose. So the ankle will mostly stay, but this knee, this thigh bone will move towards midline. So if eyes are open, I see that left knee almost directed towards the middle of my chest, but then I redo or overdo that figure 4, the knee turning out. The low back consistent as your thigh moves in. Low back, heavy hands as your thigh moves out. And keep finding this nice strong wag for the left leg. And keep the final turnout. And then third phase is to have both of the legs move towards you via your decision to lift the right foot. So the right foot is controlled down to the floor, and then your low back might become increasingly heavy as that right foot becomes undone and the two legs float towards you, maintaining their figure 4 shape. And then hold this floating version. Stay with hands glued down, or the hands can wrap onto that right hamstring. Slowly land both feet. Very simply, take feet wider than your hip width. Lift and land the low back. And then windshield wipe your legs. Nice and slowly. Having that moment of middle before the weighted thighs tip over to one side. and eventually that movement slows to stillness. Keep your thighs nice and wide. Stretch your heels out, so your legs out long. Flip palms up. So if you had a bird's eye view of yourself, you'd be in very much a star shape, and just stay and relax. Small change of perspective in your breath. Instead of raising chest to ceiling with inhales, try really lifting collarbones, chest up towards the chin as you're filling your lungs. Maybe feel heavier in your legs, your low back, by the time the exhale squeezes down length of torso. Continue slow breath. Continue slow breath. Simple body scan becomes so heavy in the circles of the heels. Give those permission to drop into floor, or even pretend that they're dropping into the floor below you. Maintain heel weight, and then find those bowling balls of the calves really printing, weighting down into the floor. Keep the lower legs melded and matted down heavily. Now think back sides of hands, the rounds of the elbows, and the nice triangular flats of the shoulder blades down into the floor. Heavy backs of hands, heavy elbows, heavy shoulder blades. And then in no rush, finalize it by heavying skull. Maybe even widening the base of the skull. That transition between brain and neck, the bottom of the hairline. Let that soften as brain, as skull grow heavy. Stay or rest onto one side with hips and knees bent. To cross-legged or up to kneeling. Purposeful stress while seated, pull shoulder blades up into the ears. If you're still lying down, you could do it lying down. And just one good drop. And thank you. Thanks for practicing.